Welcome to Plantish Live. I'm Nina Curtis. My co-host Sesabek Rando and I go live Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Chef Sesabek will be joining us next week, and I'm here today. It's Taco Tuesday. Let's not forget that. I'm going to have tacos later, but I'm thrilled to have my guest on today, JoVonna Johnson-Cooke. She is a vegan chef, food justice activist, and the co-founder of Maitu Foods, Awali, and Grow Where You Are. Not just one business, but three. I've known her for years. It's been a while since we've been able to catch up, and I'm thrilled to have her. She made the time today because she's quite a busy woman to join me. Welcome in, everybody coming in. I see you. Please drop in the chat where you're joining in from, and through an emoji, tell me what your beverage is of the morning. So are you a coffee drinker? Are you a tea drinker? Do you start after you brush your teeth just with water or juice? Let me know where everyone is joining in from. And I know JoVonna will be joining us shortly. And here we are, another Tuesday. Chef Sesabek and I always talk about we go through our week by Tuesday, from Tuesday to Tuesday, and it goes so fast. So I know that we're going to have a delicious conversation. A lot. I mean, when Chef JoVonna puts her mind to something, I know her well. Hello, Valerie. How are you? Welcome in. Welcome in. I know that she plants a seed, she nourishes it, and then it blooms. And it's a beautiful thing that I've watched her do over the years. So I see everyone coming in. Please share where you're tuning in from, and also let me know what your beverage is of the day, of the morning, because, well, some of you are on noontime, right? But let me know what your beverage is, and we're thrilled to have you here. I see you, JoVonna. If you want to just request to go live, because I invited you, but if you see requests to go live with me, that will work, and I'll just invite you in on another way, because sometimes Instagram has its ways. Yes, I see you. Hello, everyone. Please share where you're tuning in from and what your beverage. Green juice. I love that. What is in your green juice? Because there's so many ways to go with green juice. Is it a celery? I know some people are mad on the celery thing. 75 hard, always drinking celery juice. Or what is your mixture? Share your recipe with all of us so we can benefit from that. Thank you for coming in, everyone. Let's see, JoVonna, if you'll just request to go live with me, because I invited you, but if you don't see that, we'll go another way. We just work with, what Instagram wants to do, and it'll work out. Thank you, everyone coming in. We're going to have a lively conversation with JoVonna Johnson-Cooke, a vegan chef, a food justice activist, and the co-founder of, as I said, Awali, Maitu Foods, and Grow Where You Are. No problem. We'll just see. We know how this Instagram works. We'll have you come in. Let me try, and I'm going to try and let's see what we can do here. Yes. We don't let in. And let's see if it will. There it is. Hello.
We figured it out.
We're always going to figure it out. The internet ethers never take us down, ever. And I see Killer Kev 83. You've got celery, green apples, kale, parsley, lemon, ginger, and pineapple in that juice. Okay, can you make one for me and just send it through the phone? Because I haven't gotten to my juice yet. I have my water. I'll probably do my ice matcha and go from there. Sister JoVonna, welcome. How are you doing? It's been too long.
It has been some time. It has been.
It has. It's been way too
Yeah.
long, but I am thrilled, and I know you're a busy woman, so I thank you for taking the time, making the time to
Thanks for having me.
join me and our community. We're a loving community, we're a supportive community. You know, we're here live, but we will post the replay, and
Okay.
we have a lot of people because we're all busy who do watch that. So I don't, I speak to both as, you know, those that I know are here. But tell us. You're a busy woman. You're the co-founder of Awali,
Yes.
of Matu Foods, and
Yes.
Grow Where You Are, based
Yeah.
in Atlanta. And you
Mm.
started Matu Foods 2008.
Yeah.
Wow. You
2008.
birthed
Yeah.
that baby.
And the crazy thing, not crazy, the beautiful thing about it is that I birthed it right along with my son. So my to food started when I was pregnant with my son. He was the impetus for it. And so he made me a mother, so hence mother's food. So yeah.
I love that. So with that, I'm gonna go back a little bit. You said you birthed Matu Foods with the birth of your son.
Yes.
And so was that the inspiration? Was it, I want to make my son's baby food, or how did you wake up one morning and say, okay,
There were a lot of different things that were converging. So, when we became pregnant with Kahin, we were trying to figure out how was I going to be able to have the baby at home and also stay at home with the baby, and still be able to be like contribute to the household in other ways, like financially. And my partner Eugene, he was just like, well, I mean, you like to cook, and and there was a local a private school, and that we both had taught at, and worked with, and I was doing a summer camp that year, and we were getting ready to come into the next year, and we just had the idea of how about we could provide lunches for them. And so that's kind of how it started. It started out with like maybe like two students, just a couple of students, and then by the end of the week, we had not only that whole school, but we had their additional daycare that they had attached to it as well for the young ones. And then that's how Maitu Foods was born. It was born providing meals for the students, and then also that just branched out to their families as well. Then word of mouth, and then just it just grew from there. So yeah.
and these are vegan lunches.
Yeah, they were vegan lunches, yeah.
Oh,
Which
it's
was
from
interesting
inception.
because not no one at the school, they may not even be now, but no one was vegan. But they were open to it. They were open to it. So I'm grateful for that because that just set off everything for Maitu Foods, and just my trajectory in life from that point to now. It was started right then and there. So yeah.
I think that's so important. And it makes a point that when you make good food, and
Mm,
vegan food is
yeah.
food, and you make whole foods that
Yeah.
people already relate to. I mean, most people eat vegetables. We know not enough. We know
Right.
not
Right.
enough. But most people can relate when they see fruit or vegetables on the plate, and then you bring it because you love to cook, you know how to cook, and nobody's really asking about it. I know we get the question, where's the protein?
Yeah.
But I came into veganism, bodybuilding, and so
Oh,
I love that question. I
what?
love that question.
Really?
Yes,
Okay, so then
yes.
we'll have to have a conversation after this, like to tap into that. I
Yeah,
didn't know
Venice
that.
Beach bodybuilding. I did
Oh,
bodybuilding competitively natural for a decade. And
oh,
at one point, my body just said, we are not doing this anymore. And I was like, what are we not doing? And it was like, we don't want, you know, how you talk to yourself.
right.
It's like, we don't want any animal flesh or secretions. And I just didn't look back. My recovery time was faster. I maintained and got stronger, in my opinion, because I kept stepping on stage. So I say that to
I love that.
say,
I love
I
that.
read, because I do my homework, you're like serving probably more now, 2,000 lunches,
Yeah, that
school
was,
lunches.
and that was just with full transparency. We stopped the lunch
Okay,
program about 2 years ago. Two
okay,
years ago now,
okay,
for me to focus on the work for Wally.
okay.
Um, And so at that point, when that came out, it was 2000 then. 2000, I think, in Rising, so it may have even been more at that point. Yeah, but over the years, over time, and when I think about it, because my son, he's 16 years old now.
Okay.
And so, having that was at least a 10-year time span, more than 10 years actually, that we were doing the lunch program. So yeah, well over 2000. That number may be not even a bit, but it's quite conservative. Yeah,
That's a lot. I don't,
yeah,
you're saying that was then, but we have those moments. That's a decade.
right,
That is a
right,
long
right.
time to be sustainable. One thing to be serving school lunches. Okay. It's
Yeah.
another thing because we know, and I've worked in the system, there are a lot of subsidies that come with
Yes.
the regular, right?
Right,
I don't even know if I should call it regular, but what most people think of lunches. That is
right.
not happening when you're talking vegan school lunches. So I want to just applaud you and give you your flowers there. So then tell us how that experience really kind of ebb and flowed into a Wally, or how
Mm.
did that happen?
Oh, Wally, wow. So Awali, I think, was something that was always kind of in the back of our minds of what we wanted to create, as far as an interface for us being able to teach what we were learning and what we know, and also to be able to share within a collective of our community, even outside of our community, with ideas and creativity around not only veganism but just earth-based living, reconnecting with nature, reconnecting with the earth through gardening, through herbalism, through vegan foods. And so just, I think, like with Maitu Foods, it all just came out of a need. And us seeing a need and saying, okay, how do we, with our skill set, service this need now and make it so that it's all inclusive, make it so that it's holistic, that it still aligns with not only like our culture but just our beliefs about around like just living. And that's really how Wally came about. We had some great support through an organization that's centered around the animal rights movement. They saw our work, and they just got on board with our ideas and with our plans, and they've been supporting us, and it allowed us to then establish Awali as a nonprofit and just set on this course with Awali now. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And tell us, what does Matu mean and what does a Wally mean? Because I know they have meaning, but for
Yes.
anyone, we hear these names, but I think it's really rooted with what you're talking about from, working the land, eating from the land. I mean, it should be earth food, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Almost versus vegan food,
mm-hmm.
because
Definitely. Right.
veganism is a lifestyle, but so is earth food and all that you're doing. It is really a
It
lifestyle
is.
of how
It is.
you and your partner Eugene cook, live, and how you then take that out into the community. So
Mm-hmm.
let's let anyone listening and those that are with us, let's define what those things mean so we can start planting those seeds for people to see the foundation that you've built.
Mm-hmm. So Mayato means mother. It means, the literal translation is our truth, but it is the Kikuyu word for mother. And so just those two things. So one, mother, again, because I was coming into it as a new mom, but our truth. And when I think about like the earth and all of its inhabitants, like it is our truth. It's the design. It has it has everything. It's the source of our life. So it's whether we align with it or not, it is our truth as earthlings, as beings that live on this planet. And so that's where that's the kind of ethos that we try to live through with Mindful Foods. um just expressing and finding connection with our truth. Now awali means the source. And so, and that's also very, very multi-layered. The source for us being, again, the earth. but we also wanted the spaces that we create for Wally to be a source for people for healing, for connectivity, for creativity, and just like for education, for a source of information. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's important because you have such a rooted, I'm going to say, foundation,
Mm,
that people need to understand. I always talk about, and Chef Sesavec and I, independently and together, always talk about, know the people who are providing your food, know the
right.
people who are cooking your food,
Yeah.
know the people that, where your food comes from. And I think you are just a real strong model for people that are
Thank you.
listening and watching, yes, to go, okay, this makes sense. And within that, your roots are very strong in
Mm,
relevance, food
mm,
justice, and, accessibility. And when we talk about plant-based and nutrition, or we just talk about plant-based, I know I've experienced it. Maybe you have. A lot of people think it's, oh, if that's for them. Veganism is for
right.
them over there.
Right.
But how do your Owali Kitchen and Maitu Foods, how do you go out into the world, or how do you show up? How do you present? How do you create your educational tools to stay rooted in this
Mm.
foundation that you have?
So much of it for me has been first being a student of like our cultural foodways, and really just studying like how we have done this from time immemorial. And to also acknowledge and recognize that food is a culture in and of itself. And every group on the planet, every race, every ethnicity, like we all have cultural rituals around food. And so, like for the last more than a decade, it's been like my mission to like seek out those rituals, just to not only give relevancy to those things and to honor those traditions, but to have a guideline to like how to really interface with people. Um, I mean, and that's what culture informs us of. It informs us, it gives us the instructions on how to communicate with one another, how to move with one another. And so, and food being a huge form of communication, um it's like I think I'm informed so much by just studying different rituals, but also being a part of the culture. Like this is food, I mean, food is everybody's culture in some form or
Everyone.
another, like because we all have to eat, we all eat. And so just just being a part of my community, and just having my own experiences in life, I think that keeps me like rooted in it. So when we're interfacing with people, we're interfacing human to human, like soul to soul, person to person. So it's I think it comes naturally in a lot of ways. It's just and I love this Eugene with his company. It's called Grow Where You Are, and it's like with everything, it's about being and meeting folks and meeting yourself where you are, and then coming from that place, starting from that place. And so I think with food, we know the landscape that we're in right now. It's it's
It's
rough.
heavy.
It's rough. And it's not like decreasing, it's increasing. And so people I think they're tired. They're tired of being sick. They're tired of like just the onslaught, the attacks that are coming through the food systems that we have now. And I think just understanding that, having been a person that's just like gotten to a point where it's just like, enough is enough. There's no reason why I should not be healthy and thriving on this planet. There's no reason why I shouldn't have access to the best food. And so when you like, I think like we a lot of people that we interface with, they've all just come to that place, and so it makes for a natural kind of cohesion, or a natural like interfacing where we relate, because we're all just like, what's the solution? Like we've run out. It's time for us to really just like take a step on our square on this planet and just get to it. And so I think a lot of times people are just coming like, there has to be a different way, there has to be a better way. And like we are hoping that we provide a space that we can have those kind of exchanges where that conversation can happen, and then we can figure out practical ways to actually see it manifest in the world. So yeah, hope I answered
It's
your
huge.
question. It was kind of
No,
roundabout,
no,
but
I get
yeah,
it because you know,
yeah.
when you're doing a lot and you're covering a lot of ground, but you're breaking it down into components, I think to a degree where people can go, oh, I didn't think of it that way. I work with an
Mm,
organization here in Sacramento, One Kitchen,
mm,
and they have four organizations throughout the state. Sacramento, California is one because Sacramento is one of the largest agricultural areas that
really.
produce and provide across the
For the whole
United
country.
States and
Yes.
beyond. Right.
Yes.
Right. So,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like I'm sitting in this belly, even though I'm originally from LA and we would have the
Are
farmers
you?
market. But
You
yes, I
know,
am fifth
Columbus,
generation.
California,
Oh my, okay.
born and raised.
We've known each other this long and we didn't know this about each
No.
other. That's
And
okay.
Eugene is from like Cerritos and
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
He did work
I
in
am.
LA.
Yeah, I'm fifth generation. My great great grandmother, Lumbee Indian, in the 1940s, had her own spiritual church. That's another conversation for another time.
Wow.
But all that to say, One Kitchen, wherever it's at. There's one unit in Texas. We just started in Sacramento, and then there's two others. I'm not going to try to remember them right now because my head is so in with you. Um, we are working with our unified school district,
Yeah.
and you know the lunches that are served and the amount of money they have to serve these lunches, right? I know that could be a whole session in itself, but I'm
Right.
saying this to say I really relate to what you're doing. And they brought me in last year or maybe the year before because we had this bill where our governor put a lot of money towards having item, a
Mm,
plant-based item
item.
available. You know, you call it meal, but it's not really because you have
Yeah.
a dollar 25 to produce it, but that's not much
Right.
less than what the whole lunch is. So I say if we're talking about our future and if you're saying people are getting tired and I'm really into, well, who's going to carry this torch and what kind of torch are we handing them to even
Right.
run with? So, you know, your son and just my nieces and nephews, I'm really tapped into that. So this whole thing, when we go through the schools, we had a tour last year and you see what's being served and you see what's being subsidized. And I mean, it's good. I think back when I was in school, you know, but my mom always packed my lunch. She grew her garden. So I say all this to say school matters to me. Our future matters to me. And so
Mm-hmm.
much of what you're saying, I'm connecting because I'm wanting to say, get all this out because, you know, you're working with it and you don't really think about it. And I think parents should think about, you know,
Definitely.
what's
Definitely.
happening when they send their kids to school. And we know so many students depend on those lunches every
Definitely.
day.
Definitely.
And then what happens the weekend? Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so that's huge. And I just think, what are some of the tenets I'm going to say that you've drawn from, you know, in your studies? I know we have a lot of connection in our studies, but what are some of the tenets or the cultural things that you've pulled, not just from whether it's Africa, whether it's Atlanta, whether it's Long Beach? What are
Mhm.
some of those things that you have like daily rituals that meet those tenants that keep you going?
That's a ooh, I have
Well,
to like go in some of the daily tenets that I
maybe the top three. Maybe the
mm,
top three. Let's give people, you know, keep it digestible.
I think the number one and the number one would probably encompass two and three is a daily practice where you're like meeting yourself, right? Where you're having time to like sit with yourself and not just like, for your own ego and but to recognize your purpose within a whole. Because the other tenets that I would add on would be community, because community is, and it's something that came to my mind when you were speaking about the school lunches and with families and with the parents being involved. One thing that, whether it was good or whether it was bad, the influences, like I grew up within community. And so, and within community, you have the opportunity to find your role or your space within a whole. So, like, the first thing is to acknowledge self, right? To acknowledge self daily, but to acknowledge self within the context of a whole ecosystem, within a whole community, within a whole world, within a whole universe. Um, and I think what is imperative that we remember is that, like, we are a part of community, we are a part of networks, we are a part of a whole entire ecosystem. And if we can acknowledge that and, like, really just live within that context and that understanding, I think a lot of the things that we're facing will can possibly move towards being eradicated and are being resolved. Um, because and if we look at the earth, and this may go more into like veganism as an identity, and but like, if you look, or no, I won't even say veganism, just being an earthling, being here and acknowledging that you're here on planet earth and that you work with mother earth. You see that the earth, it's all about connections, it's all about relationships, it's all about community. Like single seeds, that they grow, but they grow to create communities of like plants that we then consume. So it then adds, like, it's how we are interfacing. So we're consistently and constantly in the flow of life, interfacing within community, within relationships. And so if I may or may not have one or two or three, but like community sits at the center of it, because within community, you have the opportunity to find your purpose and how you fit within that context. So yeah, that would be the tenet. And I think it's the tenet that is the overarching one for all that we do. Is recognizing ourselves within a larger whole and seeing how do we add to the balance and the harmony of the whole. And like, if I could just touch on what you were saying about the parents when it comes to like school lunches, because it's a big thing, especially today. A lot of times parents find themselves outside of the ability to be able to provide sustenance properly, or even the know-how, the knowledge. And then that's where people like yourself and myself and our organizations come in, is like making those connections, not only with the children and the school lunches, but like with the families, or at least giving the space for the conversation to be had. Um, because yeah, like, how that's the only way that this torch does get passed on to the future generations. And so I don't know. I hope I answered your question. I know I can be a
You're
bit long-winded
answering.
sometimes.
You're answering because there's not a, when we ask a question, you're speaking your truth.
Yeah.
Right. The mother, the experience, the ground, that is how it works. I worked several years with an organization called Food Literacy here, and it was another
Mm.
organization in the schools that taught the kids grades 1 through 6 about fruits and vegetables, primarily vegetables. And every year they'd have the vegetable of the year, and they
Mhm.
would bring in chefs that were doing things in Sacramento, and then we would compete because we'd get a vegetable
Mhm.
and we didn't know what we were going to get.
Uh,
And there were 5 chefs.
okay.
One year I got cauliflower, one year I got collard greens, and then one year I got mushroom. So with the collard greens, I was like, how am I going to get these kids? You're talking cultural, not just one
Right.
culture. You're
Right.
talking
Right.
brown and black and other kids,
Right.
right? And so I made a collard green wrap with chickpea, like, egg salad, because
Uh-huh.
I'm vegan. Not all the chefs were vegan.
Mhm.
It wasn't about that. It was about the food and the
Food, right.
vegetable. And I would place, because I would get in front of those kids. I just reminded myself how I was. The first graders were so much more tough than the sixth graders. But their parents, some of the parents would come to our, cook off, because we had to present in front of the kids. They had to each bite it. So grades 1 through 3, third grade, and then 4 through 6 would come in two different, because the mental, and
Right.
this, the
Right. Right.
activities. But those first through third graders, I'm not eating that. What is that? I don't drink milk. It's not milk, it's dairy. But and giving you the looks, and I could just see the parents kind of just like, oh
This
no,
is
they're
what I
going
deal
off
with.
on you. Like, who's really running this household?
Right.
But with that, we would send them a box, so they could try everything. And sometimes we needed to put a knife in the box so they could cut,
Mm,
there's those things you really get to know what's happening. So to
right.
your point of the parents and accessibility, how do you bring accessibility to the community, especially with Grow Where You Are? Is that a CSA also offering, or do people come in and tend the land with you?
So with Grow Where You Are and Eugene and he has a partner, Nicole. They do Grow Where You Are. I'm
Okay,
over here
okay,
doing
okay,
Maitu Foods
okay.
but they do market every week, farmers market. And then they have groups that come to the farm to train. They have volunteers consistently and constantly. I think because the Grow Where You Are has such a huge presence and it's a pillar within the Atlanta community, um, that people just know where to come to for what Grow Where You Are has to offer. Um, and I mean, there's over the years they've created such a huge knowledge base just from their own learning and their own journey through growing. And so I think accessibility is something that all of us in all of our endeavors are constantly trying to understand how to navigate. um it's it, it's um it's a challenge. It can be a challenge.
Mm,
And so I don't know that I have like a definitive answer for how we like, because there's no one way, it's always changing.
yeah.
And with the times, like we're always having to like innovate or renovate like our ideas around how we um uh answer the call for accessibility, right? So but I think it's one thing is just being present, showing up for the opportunities, being consistent, to allow people to know that, hey, we are here.
Yeah.
We are here to serve. And then just constantly putting ourselves in the spaces and with the people that can give us access to the communities that we want to serve or that have expressed the need. But it's it can be challenging because what we're finding in a lot of ways is that we're having to reimagine and reshape and reconfigure the culture, period.
Yes.
Because I mean, like when as we've been talking, I was thinking about, I don't know if because I'm I'll give my age away. I'm hitting on 42. And so, I was in school in like the 90s, early 80s, 90s. And so I remember when I was in middle school, we had home economics.
Yes. Oh yeah, I'm
So,
there. If you're trying
yeah,
to decide
so,
if I know home economics, yes, I made
right.
Hungarian goulash. I thought it was a race. My grandmother used to tell me I was Hungarian goulash, and I got to school and we made the dish. I was like, "What is happening?" I mean, they're so funny. Yeah.
But that for me, like I have a vivid memory of the first thing that I ever made in home economics. I remember it was snickerdoodles, because I think I
Yes.
still
Yes.
refer to that recipe, like, still to this day, because like it was that impactful. It made that much of an impression.
Yeah.
And maybe it was because I was already interested in cooking, maybe because I did it at home, and we weren't allowed to eat fast food, and like because we just didn't have it. We
Yes.
had to eat like wholesome food because that's what my mom could afford, right? And so like fast food and things like that was a luxury. Processed foods was considered, I don't know why, but they were considered a luxury. But like that moment of being in home economics and having that experience where like it's science, it's chemistry, it's like all these things. And it's like I can then take this home and try it at home and share it with my mom, and I can have this treat like over however many times I decide to make it. And I think that's the part that's like missing, that
Yes.
we, because I mean, we grew up knowing how to eat,
Cook and
right?
eat.
Knowing how
Yes.
to cook and eat. And like, so then with that comes food identification, right? Like we have children today that like, there's certain food they don't even recognize. They've never, ever, ever seen. They've never cooked a meal, with a family member or with mom, because for all kinds of reasons, because of work, because of economics, all these things. And so, like, and that's a big part of, like, I think it can help with accessibility. That's a big part of what we're trying to do at Awali, is bring that back from a plant-based perspective, from a whole foods perspective. Is bring back home economics. Like, let's get cooking, let's get creative, let's learn these life skills, because we all have to eat. So we should all know how to provide food for ourselves or create meals for ourselves. And it starts with the children. It really does. And so, like, getting back to that, I think would be, I mean, it would be huge. It would be huge. I mean, because I think it's also very empowering, you
Yeah.
know? And so in
Oh, it's
spaces
so
where,
huge.
yeah, where children may not feel like they have any kind of like power or leeway within their own lives, to know that, like, you can learn how to provide and create food for yourself. Like, you can plant a seed and watch it grow, and you did that. You were a part of that experience, and then you can take that and go into your kitchen, and you have the tools and the know-how to make a meal for yourself. Like, that's so empowering, you know um yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
I love it. You just took me back, like, oh, Elliott Junior High School that did not survive during the recent fires, but
Oof.
you know, yeah,
Yeah.
on Lake but
Yeah,
that was
we had family that lived on
yeah.
lake. Yeah. Yeah.
I lived on Calaveras and Marengo. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna stop. I'm gonna stop there because I want this to be focused. But
Right, right.
yeah, we give, we recognize that. But I'm saying, home ec was also very
Right.
grounding because of
Right.
all the things. And maybe because I come from a cooking family, my dad, professional chef, my
Oh,
mom,
wow.
a homemaker, and got a degree in homemaking and tailoring. My grandmother, a tailor, designer. You just, like you said, we knew how to cook, but then you'd go to school and you get this recipe. And I remember I had an assignment to cook Hungarian goulash. That's the one that sticks with me. And I remember I heard my dad say to my mom, sorry, Dad, if you watched this, why does she have to cook that tonight? And I was like, I'm about to get an A on this, okay, dude? I'm about to get an A.
Yeah.
And I made it. He loved it. It wasn't vegan, right?
Right.
But I made it, and that has been such a root to my whole culinary
Right.
experience. And hello, the damn good foods. Hello, everyone coming in. I'm waving at you. We are not ignoring you. I feel like I'm here with my sister JoVonna having this telephone conversation, and people are like eavesdropping in, but it's good eavesdrop. So
Yeah.
we welcome you, and we welcome those that will be joining us as I put up the replay. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. If you're just popping in, I am speaking with JoVonna Johnson-Cooke. She is a vegan chef, food justice activist, and co-founder of Maitu Foods and Awali. And yes, grow where you are. And we are just chopping it up in here. I had to remember, like, tell the people hello and say,
Hello,
how
hello.
are you?
Hello.
Thank you, fam. And when you talk about that you just like brought it home for me, because at 8 years old, I was chopping onions under my breath saying,
Right.
I'll never be a chef. I don't even get allowance for this. But my dad worked in catering, so it was all production. My
Mm.
mom was growing things in her garden, and what she put down, you just knew it was good and it was wholesome. And she was going to the stores and making wacky cake made of carob. And I'm asking her not to tell the kids it's not German chocolate cake and it's not chocolate, but she didn't want us to have all that caffeine that
Right.
chocolate has.
Mm.
So I have those two foundations, like, move them out. 800 meals on the Tower Bridge dinner in
Right.
Sacramento, right?
Yeah.
And every meal made with just love and thought, and the tomatoes out of the ground. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a little bit of dirt. And then I go and manage a 2-acre farm, executive chef in Santa Monica Mountains. And you just get your hands, I'm always telling me, get your hands dirty.
Right.
And I say that to the guests that came. I mean, people paid 8,000 to come for a week with us, but so many of them that had, when we talk about accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
had what
Mm-hmm.
anything they wanted. So many loved our, 2-acre farm the most
Right.
of the
Right.
time,
Right.
because they really did not pull something out of the ground and then we take it in the kitchen and serve it to them for dinner.
Right.
So when we talk
Right.
about accessibility, it is not just those of us that may not have, even those that have may still not have accessibility.
Right.
Well,
Right. Right. Right.
I'm saying they
No,
don't
no,
because it's
I
like
get your throat.
it's not on their
Right.
radar because it's
Right.
so already served to them. And,
Right.
you know, by the third day, someone would say, oh, I could be vegan if my chef could cook like
Right.
this. Then they could send their chefs to train with me.
Yeah.
Farming needs to come back in style. Yes,
Right.
yes,
Right.
Bloom,
Right. Right.
Bloom, I want to say Blue Magic 7-Eleven. Yes, we need,
Right.
yes, Jovan is doing that. She's bringing it back in
And
style.
I,
And, you know, yeah,
oh, now I was when you mentioned that, I think about the work that Grow Where You Are does, and it does. It brings gardens and on home mini farms to people at all levels of life. So, you know, we've done like victory gardens with like in projects, and he's done high, I guess I don't know if you call them high ticket clients, I don't know, because they're just humans,
yes,
but you know, they're in a different
yes,
tax bracket than most of
yeah.
us. And
They're the 1%. Yeah.
and they
And
get
one.
their minds completely blown, like, oh my, and they have like literally like they have like life-changing experiences from just having a garden in their backyard as opposed to just like acres and acres of grass, right? um and it just informs us in a different way. You know, it changes things. And I really appreciated hearing your story about like just growing up and with your father and with your mother, and like how that then led to like you catering and you just doing what you're all the things that you're doing right now. But it's like it's important because those like these moments in our childhood,
Yeah.
they inform us,
Yes.
like and that's why I think again, like just even children having access to education around food, and like we talked about with food literacy, it's so important. Like I just think about like with my as you were speaking, I was thinking about like just my growing up. We were growing up in like our little apartment, and I was coming up. My mom, you know, she's coming from Corpus Christi, Texas, but she wasn't afraid to like try things. So she would see like articles and recipes in the newspaper, and she would just try them out. So like I'm you know, coming home and I'm used to this Southwest kind of like, you know, like diet, and you know, and like she would be, I will never forget this because like um I still harken back to those things that like inform my palate then, and try to recreate those things now. People like that's, and that may be another like slant about mother's foods, because my palate is informed by what my mom was creating for us. And you know, she'll say now that, oh, she doesn't cook anymore, she doesn't know how to cook, but I'm like, mom, everything that I make that people love, it's all coming from what I got from you. So I remember one time she had an articles for, and forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, but it's Musica. Is it
Yes.
Musica?
Yes.
And it was like I remember coming home, and it was like, you know, because it has the bechamel, and it's like it was just like weird, and it had eggplant. I had never seen an eggplant before, and then it had, I think instead of like lamb she used like ground beef, and it was like, but I remember the cinnamon and all this different spices. Like I can still remember those things to this day, so that when I go and try to make a vegan version of it, I'm remembering this recipe from what, 30 almost what, yeah, 30 plus years ago. You know,
Yes.
I remember my mom like watching her make meals like from scratch, and like you know, not necessarily, she doesn't know how to hold a chef knife, but I will watch her take onions and dice them and tomatoes in her hand, and just like all these different, like the skill set that, you know, a lot of people, it wasn't professional, but it was like it produced the best food. Like the way that my mom shaped my palate, and just like I don't even think she knows, you know, because she like gave me access to so many different cultures from going into cookbooks. And to this day my mom will, like, she has like a little notepad where it's just she has these scribbled in her handwriting recipes, you know, like I'm like, mom, you know, we're in 2024, I mean 2025, you can print it off, you know, on the printer. She's like, no, she goes through and she line by
Here's
line
it.
copies the recipe, and then you go in her kitchen and she just has this, you know, piece of paper that's crumpled up and
My
has
mom and your mom were
splatters on it.
sharing
And
notes. My mom and your mom were sharing notes. You know, the cookbooks you open up and a recipe falls out that was pulled out of the magazine or the newspaper
right, right.
that recipes
But
were put in, you know?
and then you just, I mean, like I think we're fortunate in having grown up in like Southern California, because I
Yeah,
know for me in my neighborhood, we lived, I mean, it was apartments and houses. It was kind of a mixed neighborhood, but my neighbor growing up, we call what would we call her? Ma B. We called her Ma B. She had turnips, she had collards growing, she had mustards. Every single person that I know, they had either a fruit tree, so it was either avocado or it was lemon. They had collard greens growing because they're all coming from the south, so they're bringing their food home. They're like, we have to have what we ate back home here.
that's
There's
right.
sugar cane growing in the neighborhood, so we would sit on the porch, and I ate sugar cane so much as a kid that I for a long time I hated it, but that was the environment that I grew up in. So even if we're in this concrete jungle, we're surrounded by fruit trees, and people have their own little mini gardens on the side of their houses, or in their, like, in their apartments, because California apartments are kind of different. So you
Yeah,
have, so there was food, like, so when we talk about access, like, people kept they had access to their foods culturally. They kept it around them, they
yeah,
grew it for themselves,
yeah,
and that's the environment that I grew up in. So
same.
it's and it's still so possible to this day. I
Yes.
mean, you go to California now and walk those streets. I mean, there's a lemon tree, there's a kumquat tree, there's so much food around. Like,
Mhm.
they're like these ideas around, like, just of scarcity and food deserts and all this stuff. It's like it's only a perception. The earth consistently, despite man's worst, it gives and it gives and it gives in an abundance. And so I think our challenge, and what is imperative for us to do, is to teach people how to, one, recognize
Yes.
what's in your environment, and then how to interface with it, how to prepare it for yourself, for your sustenance. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
important. Blue
yeah,
Magic, we see you. You come from a long line of farmers and can't wait to have your own land. Yes, the energy, food is energy. You
for
cannot get life from
sure.
something dead. And I always say, I prepare food to live for, not to die for. Chef Suzanne Barr, we see you up in here. Thank you for joining us, and others. You know, you make so many points, and boy, this has been a conversation of taking us back.
Yes, for sure.
And the impact of Blueprint that gets into our DNA. And you
Hmm.
know, the other thing, we can talk about all these high-end restaurants and celebrity chefs today. You know, that wasn't back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't a celebrity chef. My dad is hardcore, head down in the kitchen. Maybe the chef walked out and said hello, and that was the celebrity, right? And he's
Right.
always saying, don't get your head too high. When I went to the White House to cook in 2023, the thing he said, I'm not going to say it like him. He was like, don't fudge this up. And I was
Right.
like, Dad, I've come this
I mean,
far, you know?
but it's legacy, and it's,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you're representing him in so many ways as well. So
No,
yeah,
truly.
all those times when he was working in those kitchens and doing what he was doing. Yeah.
Yep. And, you know, he did a lot of LA catering. Excuse me. Mm, I'm getting too excited because I'm walking down Lake Avenue right now. I just want you to
Right.
know. Because
Yeah.
the other thing, we walked, we
Woof.
rode
Mm-hmm.
bikes, we
Mm-hmm.
were outside,
Yes.
but you knew to be in before those lights came on, the street
Right.
lights. Boy, I'm really aging.
Right.
I'm not aging us. We are young in life, but it was just such a
Exactly.
different time than, you know, how some parents will hand a baby the moment they can hold something and click, and that's what they're in. When we're talking about accessibility, it's like accessible in our minds before
Right.
it's even
Right.
physically accessible,
Right.
right? That we can believe it, that we really know what a tomato in the summer tastes like. In
Right.
California, you know, I'm always talking about that. We have a lot of things annually that's not their season.
Right.
And you talk about accessible and affordable. We did this a lot with food literacy. It's going to be more affordable in the season.
Right.
And even in Sacramento, we have people that are, you know, don't even have accessibility to the food
Mhm.
because it's going out.
Right. It's leaving.
Or they may not be able to get to, you know, the farmer's market. But I am glad a lot of things have been able to be used, SNAP and all that, if that doesn't get taken away from us.
Yeah.
So,
It's a whole
you know,
nother.
This is deep, 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 and I'm gonna
Yeah,
lighten
yeah.
it up because I'm just having a walk down memory lane. I want to
Right.
thank you for this. And
Definitely.
yes, fam, this
Thank
is a
you.
beautiful conversation. And when we talk about food is life. We can put a label on it, whether it's vegan, vegetarian, omnivore. I mean, we're all really herbivores, right? Just look at our teeth. I don't know
Mm,
how much we
mm.
have to argue about this, but people should have a choice. But we know for fact, as a society, we are not getting enough fiber. We are not
Right.
getting enough fetal nutrients. We are not getting enough plant-based foods, pre, pro, bio- prebiotics and
Yeah.
probiotics in our system, and that's causing this whole problem in the healthcare industry
Mm.
of gastrointestinal issues, no matter who you are. So our health is our first wealth. Our
Yeah.
health is our first wealth. I'm going to take us into a quick fire because I want to give you a
Okay.
minute to just like fast first question,
Okay.
whatever you think. What's the
Let's
first
do it.
thing you grow in the garden in this season? What do you I love the summer. So what is the first thing you have already, I know we plant
Oh,
before,
right
but
now.
what's in the garden? Yeah,
Ooh.
what's the first thing you want to grow?
Um. Well, if you are you a beginner? First thing you
No,
want to grow?
I've been
No, I
no,
mean
I'm just sort of
for the
oh
sake of
yeah, a
are they
beginner.
okay?
Yes, okay.
So
Yeah, tell me.
radish,
Okay.
radish because it's rewarding. It comes up quick and fast, and
Okay.
it's like I did it, and that will then like excite you to get to the next thing. So
Okay.
yeah, you'll do
Radish.
radish
Okay.
first. Yep.
And if you were a vegetable, what would you be?
Ooh, if I was a vegetable, what would I be? Does it have to be a vegetable? Can I be a fruit?
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
Well, let me see. Okay, no,
You're
if I was a
telling your
vegetable,
personality.
if I was a vegetable, I think at this stage of my life, I would probably be a yam.
That has some story behind it.
That's some because it has some body to it. It has some body to it.
Okay.
But no, not a yam, a sweet potato, unless it's
Okay,
purple,
sweet potato. Okay.
because because I still want to give you your phytonutrients and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah, yeah.
with the
Oh,
colors and yeah, that's what I would be.
a yam, a sweet
Yeah.
potato, a sweet potato, a
Yeah.
sweet
And
potato.
please,
Well, some people
people do
call
not
sweet
come for
potatoes
me. All those
yam.
people who are against starch and things like that. It's okay.
Listen, there's good starch. There's resistant starch. Know
Right.
what we're talking about. The food grown at Awali is so delicious. Tell us what your favorite food grown at Awali is. Share that with us. Somebody just dropped that in the
It's
comments.
consistently changing because we're always putting in new stuff. But right now, what I'm loving that's coming from Awali is kale. Not kale, excuse me,
Kale,
chard.
chard.
Chard. The chard
Okay.
right now. But the thing that I use the most out of the garden is probably like the herbs. So like the cilantro and the chives, the onion chives, the garlic chives, things like that. Yeah.
And I don't think people give enough props to herbs.
They're everything. They're medicine.
Yeah.
They're the healers. They're the healers.
Okay. Awali is in Atlanta, but you want to narrow down Atlanta where Awali is. Someone's asking, where's Awali?
Lithonia. So
Lithonia.
like
Okay.
if you know where Stone Mountain is, we're maybe 5 minutes away from downtown Stone Mountain.
Okay.
Hmm.
Somebody is saying the arugula, the cilantro, lemon balm, garlic, chives. I could go on and on. We
Yes.
could go on, and I love the fact you can pull them out. Okay, and somebody's got their drink, their coffee. Thank you for dropping. We have an active chat family when we
I
come
love
on,
it.
so I love this, and the hearts are coming through for you, Sister
Amen.
JoVonna. You can. I have a dehydrator, so before my
Mm.
cilantro, when I get my herbs from the store, I have a basil plant that I have
Mm.
bazette, and then I'm growing in a mason jar. We had a guest on cocoa and seed, and she creates mason jar gardens
Oh
because
wow.
she lives in Arizona and couldn't grow outside,
Oh,
and
I
she
can imagine it's
wanted to grow.
hot
Yes, yes,
and cold. Hot and cold
yes,
actually. And at night it's
hot and
really
cold, but when
cold.
it's
Yeah.
hot, it's hot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she's created this whole company, Cocoa and Seed,
Wow.
and their mason jar, and she has tomatoes and Thai chili. She's even
Tomatoes
growing
in a mason
watermelon
jar?
and watermelon.
What?
That's the next
No, I have to see
kit.
it. I have to
I'll
see
send
it.
you the
Yes,
link. I'm going to
please.
send you a link. It's wild. But that just goes to show out of a problem, we figure out solutions, right? And she was like, I'm not giving up on this. Um, I'm not giving up on this. And she's created this business. Okay.
We
Next
need
one I
that.
have for
We
you.
need that level of
Yes, we
innovation. We
do.
need it so much because there are people that are
Because
living in all kind of different situations, and so we need all of it. We need all of it.
and we have the
Yes, I
grow
love that.
towers. But I
Mhm.
think when you can manage a jar or a plant in your kitchen and you can snip it, it
Mhm.
allows you to then look around, like you said, on our street, Mansfield in LA, where I grew up, we had avocados and
Mhm.
citrus. And like you
Yeah.
said, you took me back in between oh, what's her name? She taught us sewing on
Mhm.
Saturday. We would go over, but she had her little bed in front of
Yep.
her because we had like flats, these apartments, like you're
Mhm.
saying, they're almost like a home. And wow, I'm gonna go down memory lane when we get off of here. Thanks for that mason jar.
Yeah.
Yes, in
Yeah.
what? In
I'm interested in
Vegas?
that for
I'll
sure.
send you. It's
Even for children,
cocoa and seed.
as an introduction to children, like in
Yes,
schools and things where they may not have the space outside, but like
yes.
they can learn that in science class. It's like, I love this. I love it. I love this life. And I love when people are just really figuring out like this relationship with the earth, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important. And I work with blue zones, and there's been studies inside of blue zones and outside of blue zones. It shows community gardens
Mm,
and
mm,
having from a garden in your mason jar to a community garden to having, a garden to having an acres of farm or land like you have, grow where you are. That has shown that people are tending to something. They have a
mm-hmm,
self-worth,
mm-hmm.
and that has
Yeah.
shown longer years even in your
Yes.
lifespan.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's activity, especially if you have a
Yeah, for
garden.
sure.
You're
It's a
moving your
movement.
body. And
It's a workout.
that is a huge part of the centenarians in the blue zones, that they keep moving.
Yeah.
And
And
a
the
lot of
vitamin
people get,
D, being
yeah, yeah,
outside, the nutrients
and
you get from that. It has so much.
yeah.
The earth gives us what
I
we
mean,
need, for sure.
and food gives us before we even put it in our mouth so
Right,
much,
right,
right?
right.
So what's a book? What's a book that
Ooh.
has left an impression on your life or changed something you believed? If you have a book like that, like The Alchemist was mine, um,
Ooh.
and then you take it on. But what would that be?
There's so many books, but the
Yes.
the book that came to mind, because it was the book that changed my life. It's when I became a vegan. It's called Healing with Whole Foods. Um,
Good book.
I'm sure you know it.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
that I
It's a good
when
book.
so when I got my brother, he was already vegan,
Okay.
because
Oh,
he was Rasta, so he was already
yes.
vegan, and he brought that book to me. He was like, "You got to stop eating the stuff that you're eating," and he gave me that book as a, like, we called it the Bible, and I read that book, and I got into that book when I was 15 or 16 years old, and my whole world changed.
Ages.
Yeah,
It changes.
yeah.
And I love the documentaries that are out, Invisible Vegan. They're trying to kill us. What the hell?
Mhm.
Forks over knives, the game changers. But sinking into a book,
Right.
it just, there's so much you can just go back to those pages. So if Matsu Foods was a song, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good. Okay, I'm gonna, because are we still in quick fire? Because the first thing that came
Yes,
to my mind was "The Secret Life of Plants"
yes.
by Stevie Wonder. Yeah,
Okay, there you go.
yeah.
That says it all.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And what ritual, your daily ritual, big or small, is grounds you every day?
I have a new one that I just
Okay.
started just recently, and it was well, a couple of them, but it's, of course, the prayer meditation. Yeah. And there's this song that I really like. It's by Chronix, and he talks about looking up to the sky and just being thankful and being grateful. And so the opportunity to wake up in the morning, go outside, be in the backyard, and just be touching the earth and being amongst the trees and being able to just, that's the grounding. Like, to just place myself, where I'm at, and have gratitude for all that I'm seeing around me, and just gratitude for breath. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I mean, when
So,
because I'm here at Awali, and it's an amazing, amazing responsibility, but it's also an amazing, amazing blessing.
right.
And so the being able to get up in the morning and just step on the ground and like see the garden and see the spaces and just and just be thankful, be grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so
That
important,
and
gratitude.
burdock, sarsaparilla, and yellow dock mixed tea. Cause that's also very, very grounding. So I've been
Yeah.
doing that as a morning ritual recently when I wake
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
And I think in this world we live in, finding whatever, however you want to call it, ritual,
Mm,
practice, before I step out of my bed, I've done my thanks
yeah.
for just another day to breathe,
Right.
and to be reminded that our maker is closer than our own
Right.
breath. We're not
Right.
separated.
Not at
We're
all.
not
Not at all. Not
separated.
at all.
And you can run, you can go away, you can fight it, but it never separates
It
from
never.
us.
It's there always.
It's like, I'm
There.
waiting.
And
You're
that's a
gonna run. You
tremendous
can run,
amount
but
of
you can.
grace. That's
Yeah.
grace. It's
Yes,
grace.
it
And so
is.
I think it's imperative, because we're extended that grace,
Yes.
that we get to the work. We get to the work. We get to doing our part to
Right.
show
Well,
gratitude for the grace. Yeah.
gratitude. You've dropped so many gems,
Oh, thank
Sister JoVonna. I,
you.
I just love it. And my head is just reeling. And it's like when we get off, fam, I know that we've shared a lot. And those of you that have tapped in and come in with us, those of you that are going to watch the replay later when I repost it, please drop in the chats, what you've taken
Mhm.
away from this once we put up the replay, because it's a process of digesting. Like, you've just given us so much food for the soul
Mm,
and food
thank
for
you.
thought. Follow this trend, and all of this. I remember when it was about the internet and bringing us closer, that you can connect right here,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean it's community, and it doesn't mean it's
Right.
real connection
Right.
with people.
Right.
And so there is still that work we must do. And this has been such a delicious conversation to me. I'm so full, and I
It's
thank you for
beautiful.
that. What do you
Yeah.
want, whether people are here with us right this moment or people that will listen to this later? Because I go back and watch it like 2 or 3 times, because it's one thing to be here, and then it's another
Mhm.
thing to be able to just watch it without, this
Right. Right.
process of what's
Right. Right.
happening. What do you want people to get most from what you've shared, what our conversation has been,
Mhm.
or what do you want them to think about in these times we're in, to give them maybe hope or inspiration without having to put
Mhm.
too much on you?
Well, one is that you have a purpose. You have a purpose. You have a function within all of this that we're all living in, this whole. And well, like I was able to sit with Dr. Aris Latham in his spot in Panama recently, and he often says, like, we have been given the instructions to on how to, like, utilize his body, but food is information. It is the information that informs us on how to service this vehicle that we've been given to carry out our purpose. So I just want people to take that away from this conversation, is that you have a purpose, and that how you get your instructions is through what you're consuming. So, just being mindful, being intentional about what you consume, and even how you interface and interact with your environment and the food that you eat. Yeah.
And the food, you speak of consuming, but what are we consuming online?
That's food
What are we
too.
consuming? Yes, right. It's all food,
That's
right?
food
Whether
too, for
it's
sure.
literal or I mean, it's all
You're
energy.
right.
It's all energy. And we have so many connections. I know Aris from LA, and time that he was there and doing things with him. Um, But I just love this conversation. I thank you so
Beautiful.
much.
Always. I'm
Um,
so grateful for this. Like every time we've had a conversation, I always walk away and it's just been a beautiful experience every single time that we get a chance to
um,
talk with one another. And I'm so
thank,
grateful to you for even reaching out to me and for acknowledging me. I appreciate that.
oh, yes.
I'm pretty insular and in my day to day, just keeping my head down, just doing, the work. And so it's very, very rare that I even like kind of come out of that. And, but I'm thankful for each and every time that you've kind of pulled me out of it and, allowed me,
I'll pull
the
you up.
space to,
I
thank
mean,
you
we
so much.
go back
And
living light, culinary, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, there
yeah,
are things we could go into. We always ask our guests that you'll come back. Maybe we could even do a
for
cooking
sure.
session, Chef
Oh, I
Sesabek and I with
would
you
love that.
while you, yeah, yeah.
Because there's something that you made and I'm still trying to figure out how to like bring it across. How to do it properly is when you made the was it pad thai but you used coconut.
Oh, yes, the coconut meat, the
So
young
I
time.
I watched it and I did it, but like it didn't come out the way yours did. So
Yeah, we could do that. A couple of weeks ago, I did something live and I took the coconut meat
Mhm.
and I blended it and I put some flaxseed in it and seasoning and I used it as ravioli pasta.
I love it. I love it. I
So,
love it.
okay,
I love it.
we've gotten
Yes.
your commitment on tape. I
Yes.
got you, Sister
I
Giovanna.
I
And
oh my gosh, that would be I would be honored to do or to take because I would be a student in this to learn from you.
so we're,
Like
we're
I've watched
colleagues.
what you do and I'm so inspired by the
Oh,
work that you're doing. Like you
thank
have
you.
really you've given me
Thank
like
you.
some footsteps to follow behind and I'm so so grateful for that. And you're still out there doing it. Like oftentimes I'm like, you know what? Let these kids have it. They're doing their thing with vegan, vegan foods and but like you consistently and that's I appreciate your consistency in this
Thank
work
you.
and
Thank
just
you.
like giving me a model,
Yeah,
a real life, day-to-day model of like, how this thing can go, how to go about this,
thank you.
you know?
Thank you. I listen to my young people, my nieces and nephew, content, everything matters. I'm like, I just want to make my
Ay, ay,
smoothie.
ay.
Why do I have to tape it? Put the camera on, just have it set up. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'll fight you. I'll fight you because we came from when it wasn't online. We
Right.
had to look, we had to go and drive places. I would come up to, when I was in LA, Northern California, I would get on a plane because it wasn't accessible like it is now. And it's still different. It's
Right.
still different.
Right.
But I thank you. I send you love and light and your flowers. This has been
Thank
such a
you.
delicious, fulfilling, satiating session. I can't wait to post it up. I'll tag you so you can share it and then I'll do some clips. And fam, thank you for joining us. We have been speaking with my sister JoVonna Johnson-Cooke, vegan chef, food justice activist, co-founder of Awale and Maitu Foods and Grow Where You Are in Atlanta, just doing some awesome, awesome things.
Thank you so much.
Tap in if you haven't, follow, grow with her. Grow with her
Please.
because she
Please.
and Eugene and their team are just doing some beautiful things. I'm on the West Coast, she's on the East Coast, but we bring it together and we are just thankful that you were here. We show up next week. We'll be on Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Plantish Live, because we live our lives live. It's
Yes,
not
yes, indeed.
Memorex and it's not a bot. Some of you are like, what's Memorex? But that's okay. Google it. Google it, your friends sometimes. Sometimes. I want to thank you, sister, for being here. I send you
Yes.
much love, light,
Love and
blessings,
light to you.
and
Thank
just
you.
continued expansion. My word of this year is expansion. I went to
Yes.
Rancho La Puerta in December and I did a
Mm.
week-long cooking, but I was able to take advantage of the services and we had to pick a word for 2025 and mine was
Mm.
expansion. So I'm staying in an expanded space, or I'm staying open to expanding even when it doesn't feel the most comfortable.
I love it.
And you have just expanded. My aura is
Oh,
out
Yes,
I hope
thanks.
you feel my aura because it is like that far beaming out to you. The chakras
Indeed,
are all lit
indeed,
up, right?
indeed. I
From
love it.
from the
Yes.
base to this crown. So blessings to you, your
Blessings.
family, and family blessings to you. You know, we always close with do something beautiful yourself for yourself. Walk in all your brilliance because you have the light inside of you. If your light is shining too bright, or if it isn't shining, if someone's not blinded by your light, it's not shining too bright. So
Mm,
shine a little bit more. Do not dim your light for anyone. We thank you, Sister JoVonna
thank
Johnson-Cooke,
you.
for being here. And fam, we will see you next Tuesday. Watch for the post for the replay, and we'll see you again.
Peace.
Thank you.